Hi there, it's Mischelle Leahy with Reedy Press, joined today by author Jim Merkel.
Hi there. How are you, Michelle?
Wonderful, thank you. Jim is a longtime St. Louisan and journalist. He is the author of Colorful Characters of St. Louis, Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, Beer, Brats, and Baseball, The Making of an Icon, and now his new book, Growing Up St. Louis. Thanks so much for joining me, Jim.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So lots to cover here. This book goes through decades, correct?
Yeah, all the way back to 1900, although the first, say, decade, we had to have first-person accounts of people I didn't interview. But other than that, I interviewed more than 100 people, and most of them are in the book.
Wow. How did you choose who to interview?
Well, I kept a list. I wanted to have about 10 for every time period. I wanted to have an even mix of men, women, races, matching the St. Louis demographic. And then it was pretty much random. There was one case where I walked up to somebody at a fair who had green hair and said, "Can I interview you?" "Oh, okay." And it was a pretty good interview. And I tried to get I had like Frank Cusimano, who's a sports figure. I had I had a couple of homeless people who walked in to a signing up an interview opportunity. I All kinds of people.
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean, this is St. Louis. This
Yeah.
is not nostalgia. I mean, it is growing up St. Louis, but it's not nostalgia. It's just the way things were.
Yeah. What's the strangest story that you came across in writing this book?
Well, the uh, the woman who the earliest woman that I interviewed was Dorothy Hunter, who was born in 1907, and I interviewed her when she was 109 in 2017. And my youngest was a kid named Milo Marston. He was born in 2008, and they both lived in the same block of South St. Louis,
Wow.
Connecticut Street, just uh, south of Targo Park and west of Grand.
My goodness. What are the odds of that?
Oh, there could have been thousands of different places, but it was, and I didn't know until I checked.
Wow. So what do you want your book to tell readers about growing up in St. Louis?
Well, there is obviously, I, that the important places in St. Louis are not necessarily Sportsman's Park or the Admiral or things like that, but it is your schools, it's your intersections, it's your Velvet Freeze ice cream places, things like that, and also, that's uh, that St. Louis, of course, has a less than exemplary racial history, but it's also a very comfortable place to live, and I think that's kind of communicated too.
I agree. What are some of the characteristics of the different generations that you interviewed for this?
Well, the one from the Depression era, uh, they were just very, of course, they had very much hard times, which is good right now to think about, but they survived and they were generous. And I talked to more than one person who said, well, my mom, people would come to my back door, ask for a sandwich, and they would give it to them. Baby boomers, these were the, like we just got together, our parents just let us out on Saturday mornings, and they didn't see us until the lights came on. Can you imagine doing that with your kids? And it's, but they knew it was okay. And also they didn't have, the moms were there and they had time. And so they weren't as concerned amongst for the kids. Now today, the Generation Z kids, they have so much pressure. They have so many things. ADHD medicine, which we didn't hear about. Maybe it's good that we find that out. We have different mores, different sexual mores, all kinds of things that make this totally different. Um, and so just bringing them all together, you can see it.
So who would you say your book's target audience is? Is it the person from St. Louis? Is it an outsider?
Well, it is a person from St. Louis can relate when I talk about going to Sportsman's Park or seeing being there when Bob Gibson struck out 17 in the 68 World Series, or they were there when McGuire hit number 62. But anybody really can associate with it because kids all act the same. And no matter where they are, they have the same thing. So it's anybody who has who thinks about growing up, basically, would
Sure.
be interested in the book.
Wow. So definitely is going to be a good read, and during this time that we need to be inside, I'm super excited to dive into that. Where can people get your book?
Well, I can't say that they can get it at bookstores right now. They will. Any place you can get it on the web. But if you go to my website, jimmerkelthewriter.com, that's Jim, Merkel, thewriter.com, you'll get my autograph, and you'll also, more money will come to the author.
Wonderful. All right, Jim. Thank you so much for your time and for taking on this project. I am really excited to read about the stories of those who grew up in St. Louis, and I'm sure a lot of people will be as well. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.